Good evening, everyone. We welcome y'all back to another Tuesday with Creative Financing with JB. I got a wonderful friend of mine, Greg Lathan, is going to be on vice chair of the Kent County Democratic Party. And we just gonna have some open conversation here. You know, everybody want to know what's going on and what's the thoughts and what's the vision of everything. We just gonna talk. Greg's gonna tell you a little bit about himself. You know how he got all razzled up into that type of situation, and we're gonna go from there. You know, it's just interesting that we're just building here, and I learned about the Kent County Democratic Party, which is so exciting to know that we have something in our county, and we're broken down into counties where we can see where we can work together, get some things done, see how we can benefit the state and do some things that's needed within our area instead of just working separately. But Greg, if you just take a couple of minutes, tell us a little bit about yourself and everything, and then we just gonna get into just some questions and
Sure.
answers that.
Thanks. You go by JB?
Yeah, JB's fine.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, JB. My name is Greg Layton. I live in Western Kent County in a place that doesn't really have a town. I'm across the street from what will be a cornfield this summer. So I'm out here. I'm originally from Sussex County. Grew up in Milford. Attended Milford, Delaware schools. Graduated, went to college elsewhere, came back, worked in journalism for about 10 years, and then tried teaching for about 5, and have worked in marketing and communications ever since. And since we're talking about the Kent County Democratic Party, for me, really, when I was in journalism, of course, you keep your opinions to yourself, and you cover the facts, and I think I did a pretty good job of doing that. And then teaching, they want you to stick to the curriculum and things like that, and I understand that that's important. But for the longest time, there were things about the way our government is run and issues that affect people in Southern Delaware especially, but in the entire state, that concern me and that I have opinions about, but I kind of sat on my hands and kept quiet. And around 2016 to 2020, I probably spent too much time arguing on social media with people I disagreed with and not changing a thing or changing a single person's mind. So a few years ago, I decided, well, rather than waste my time arguing with strangers, I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to get out in my community. I'm going to do a few things to make the world that I want to see. So one of the places I'm involved is the Sierra Club, which is the oldest and largest environmental organization in the United States. We have a Delaware chapter, and I'm lucky enough to be vice chair of it. Also on the leadership committee of Indivisible Central Delaware, which is about 2 months old but growing rapidly. It started out like 2 months ago, 15 people getting together in the Kent County Library to talk about ways to make some change in Delaware, and we packed out the library. So we moved to a church this past weekend, and we've packed it out. But Kent County Democratic Party, I've been involved pretty heavily for about 2 years. I was chair of the 30th Representative District Committee in Southern Kent County, and as part of that, sat on the county executive committee for the party, and decided late last year that I wanted to run for another leadership position and maybe try to influence the county party more, or at least get it more organized to reach people. And I would say I was fortunate to win my election, but I ran against JB, and JB might have done a better job than me. I'm not sure, and maybe next time he will. but he has been the most gracious person that I've ever run against in any uh, campaign, big or small. And I'm really happy to get to know him, and really happy to be here and learn more from him. And he's obviously built a community and reaches out to people, and that's what I want to do. So I want to learn from him, and that's why I'm here.
Wow, that was excellent. Greg did a outstanding job there with that speaking. And my first event with that party, I was excited, to be honest. I was excited to see so many of us come together to work together for a cause, that we can make it better. And we just have so many things that we need to do together. And Greg, I think your leadership's going to be, very great within the county, and especially for the party of what we're going to do. But tell me about the Sierra Club that you're a member of. Do they have like events, or what is that built on?
Sure. The Sierra Club, I'm going to get the date it was founded wrong, but it's an old environmental organization in every state in the United States, and we have a Delaware chapter. Each chapter is a little bit different. So in Delaware, we focus on policies that'll preserve a livable climate for everyone. We work to preserve natural ecosystems, and one really exciting focus and very important to me is environmental justice. And environmental justice a few years ago was a new concept to me. I'm sorry to say, I didn't understand it, but when you look at the maps, poor people of color tend to live closer to polluting industries than wealthier white folks do.
Yeah.
And these industries tend to be put in vulnerable, marginalized communities. So that's one of the things that the Sierra Club Delaware chapter focuses on, is bringing attention to that and trying to get laws passed to work on our priorities. We have events. Delaware, it's actually under Delaware Sierra Club is the Facebook page, but we have events. We bring people together. We do things like hikes. We also have informative evenings. Like last month, we brought people together in Wilmington to discuss land use and how policies on the county and state level can provide houses and homes for people who need them, but also be mindful of our environment and be mindful of affordability, because that's a huge crisis in Delaware. We need, I think, 20,000 affordable homes.
Absolutely.
For the people who are born and raised here to continue living here. And there are ways that land use policy can serve that better. So we had an evening where we had Rethinking Delaware, which is an organization. We had them in to talk to us. And there's a bill coming up in the state legislature about preserving wetlands. We're going to have an informative night about that to get people involved. Periodically, we gather people together to go to the legislature. For example, for the Climate Solutions Act, we sent people to the legislature and talked to our elected leaders and encouraged them to pass a bill that would, not only reduce air pollution in Delaware, but also make sure that as the lowest lying state in the country, we're not swamped by sea level rise in the next century. So those are just some of the things we do. But it's a very active and organized group. And like everything else, I'm still somewhat new to it. And so I'm getting my feet wet and trying to learn. I just before I got on here, I had a meeting with them. We're talking about improving our communications to members of the community and people who live in Delaware and things like that. So as you know, well, there's always something to learn.
Yeah, that's awesome. And tell me about that new organization you said just started that you mentioned there.
Sure.
I don't want to pronounce it.
It's called Indivisible Southern Delaware. I'm sorry, I got it wrong. Indivisible Central Delaware. There's a nationwide organization called Indivisible, and they oppose some of the policies we see coming down from the federal government since January, the stuff that was laid out in Project 2025 by the right wing. And I want to say there's 5 chapters in Delaware now, maybe 6, but they've sprung up pretty fast. There are people who want to get involved. They don't like the way things are going, so they want to put their time and energy into changing things. There have been a few demonstrations, like a few hundred people showed up at Legislative Mall in Dover, and with signs opposing the Trump administration and some of the things they're doing, and marched around. But we gather once a month on a Sunday. I can't say where right now because we packed out the church we just moved to, so we need to find a larger space. But my area of focus in that organization and in most things is state and local engagement. A few years ago, when I was deciding that it wasn't very smart to just argue online all day, just making people mad. For my own sanity, I decided to focus on things that I can do something about. Like if somebody in the federal government does something harmful, I can say it's terrible. I can write a letter to the editor. I can call my senators or congresswoman. I can do some of those things, but the chances are I'm not going to change anything really quickly. So I try to pay attention to school boards, city councils, county councils, state government, where I have a chance to get to know people, get to know the decision makers, learn about the policies, and speak out that way. And that's sort of where I focus. So Indivisible has a committee that I happen to lead that focuses on that in Kent County. We're just getting started, and like I said, growing more rapidly than we know what to do with. But I always say, and I'll put this in the conversation here. Right. My father was a science teacher at Cesar Rodney High School for 30 years, and he always told me that there's a scientific definition of work. And I'm like, what? You mean work is just going out and like putting forth some effort, sweating, doing your best? What do you mean there's a scientific definition of work? And he said work is W equals F times D. Work equals force times displacement, and the displacement is change. So if you lean on a wall all day long, get tired, thirsty, everything else, and push as hard as you can, and that wall doesn't move, you haven't done any work because there hasn't been any displacement. So I try to focus on things where I can actually make a little bit of motion, and so it qualifies as work. And like I've said like 3 times now, arguing on social media is not work.
Yeah, that's a hard thing.
It doesn't change anything.
No, not at all. I'm guilty of that myself. Some of those conversations ain't worth it, and we know that. We all about change. We've seen a lot of things change since January. We've seen a lot of things happen in the government, and I know a lot of folks is not happy with it. But it takes action, it takes movement to get it going and to get it there. So we focus on those things, and I think that's what that our focus is, for us to make some positive change that can impact our communities, that our folks will be able to say, hey, we are a little bit comfortable and we have some peace in our living situation, our work environment, and stuff like that. And I'm a transition to this because you was in teaching. You said it. You was in teaching, and that's one of our struggles that we struggle with now. Our teaching and our schooling. And tell us from your view, what's the struggle? Is it just that we don't have the funding, or is it just that we don't have the teachers, or both?
I think most things are a confluence of variables. You've got a lot of different things affecting things, and and I haven't taught in over a decade now. I've paid
Mhm.
attention, been to some school board meetings, read some articles, but I am by no means an expert. But I
Mhm.
think that the funding is important because if you don't keep quality teachers,
Mhm.
you lose their expertise. If somebody's like, okay, I've got a master's degree and all I can make is like 40 some $1,000 a year, standing on my feet all day long, uh, talking to kids who are on their cell phones and breaking up fights and getting ignored, and then going home and for 2, 3, 4 unpaid hours grading papers, that doesn't appeal to a lot of people. And
Right.
after they've been in it for a few years, they're like, I could do something else and make more money. I love the kids,
Mhm.
but I'm not paying my bills and I'm not being treated properly. So I think that the funding helps you keep and retain quality teachers. I think that I mentioned cell phones. The first time I ever saw a movie on a cell phone was when I was trying to teach English, and one of my students had a bootleg copy of Iron Man 1, and I tested very well on in my education classes and English, and I think I'm a pretty nice person and all
Mhm.
that, but I cannot compete with Robert Downey Jr. and a multi-million dollar film budget where a guy in a suit's flying around. So, and there's better movies out since then, and better video games and better music and better all that. If a student has a cell phone in their hand, the teacher just cannot compete.
Mhm.
And a lot of parents, I sympathize. You worry and you want to reach your child in case something bad happens. So parents are like, oh, don't take their cell phones away. But really, as long as there's cell phones in the classes, um, if I was a student, I'd be tempted to look at it too.
Right.
So the cell phones are a factor. Parents are so busy. People are working long hours and second
Mhm.
jobs, sometimes third jobs, and keeping track of everything in their kids and everything else is hard for everybody. Um, the days when maybe parents read a book to their kids before they went to bed, those might be long gone. And another thing that I've noticed, and this makes me sound old, and I am getting old, but when I was a kid, if you had a negative interaction with your teacher and they called home, you were in trouble at school and at home.
Right.
Um, Nowadays, I'm not saying every teacher is perfect, and I'm not saying that everybody's kid is guilty of everything they've been accused of, but now a lot of times a teacher calls home and the parents call the superintendent and say, I want to get this teacher fired.
Mm.
Because how dare you say something about my child?
Right.
So there's just a lot of things, and they're beyond me. I know that the ACLU sued sued the state of Delaware or some districts for their funding formula. So that's a hot topic in the legislature this spring, is how we can do things better
Mhm.
as far as funding. And right now there's the policy, which is really old. It's like generations old. They fund the state funds schools per student, which
Mm.
sounds fine,
Mhm.
but student A and student B are not necessarily the same.
Right.
Student A might come from a wealthy family and have all the resources they need. Student B uh, may have some disabilities or special needs or things like that that need to be worked with to help them reach their potential. So the push from the ACLU and others is to get the state to put a little bit more money toward the students that need more money,
Mhm.
and not treat all students equal. I don't
Right.
know where that's going to go, but there is a committee that meets with the legislature regularly, and I think they're going to come up with something that'll probably be public in the next month. So that's something to look for. But I don't know. As far as teaching, like I love my students, and I
Mhm.
love my subject. I mean, I read and write all the time, but
Mhm.
that's not necessarily the magic combo to be a great teacher. I'm not saying I
Right.
was a great teacher. So those teachers that can do it and can do it well, I think need to be rewarded and kept in the classroom as long as they'll serve the community that way.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome segue to it because we know our schools are struggling. We know that we need some help there. We need some funding, for like you said, if I'm a master's and I done took the time and I'm great at what I do, $40,000 is not going to be affordable living for me in this county where we're gonna just segue to our next conversation, which is affordable housing.
Mm,
Because now we need to have a good teacher. We still need to have good daycares, good food service workers, but they got to have some place decent to live and
right.
not drive an hour to work or something because of the cost of living. Is so overwhelming. So we need to have salaries. So I mean, our view on this affordable housing got to be so similar, Greg, and the fact that we need to have it. We need to figure out a way how we're going to bring that back. I do financing every day. I do loans, and people say, "Hey, I might as well buy a house," because my rent is so high. And I say, I want to guide you through that, but I want to make sure they're prepared for it. But when I start to hear their rent, it's more than a mortgage, almost some of them,
Right.
and now we pushing people out there to almost be homeless. So your views on how that has changed? You've seen it change in Kent County over the years, and how it went.
Well, I have two sides to me, and one's in I'm a native, and I descend from natives who descend from natives who descend from natives. This is Lenni Lenape land. I want to make it clear. This is you
Hmm.
know is colonized land, but my family has been here for a number of generations.
Wow.
And growing up, my father would say, "Oh, see that house there? That used to be a field. Oh, see that development there? That used to be a forest." And when I was young, we'd go down to Rehoboth to eat at Grottos back when there was only one Grottos,
Hmm.
and we would pass the fields where there's now the outlets, and they'd be covered with geese in the wintertime. I mean, they're farm fields. There weren't outlets there. There weren't restaurants there. There weren't liquor stores there. So
Hmm.
part of me like misses that, and there's certain birds and animals that I used to see growing up that I don't see anymore. But at
Hmm.
the same time, people have to live someplace. So
Hmm.
we need to make it work, and maybe I'm biased, but I think we need to make it work, especially for people who are born and raised here. I welcome the newcomers, but a lot of the houses that are being built now are like McMansions for people that are retiring from New Jersey,
Hmm.
and I'm happy for that. But we also need to have some like duplexes or multifamily units for lower income people to at least start out in and maybe end up in, because some people
Right.
after a while you get older and you don't want your big house, you
Hmm.
want to move someplace more manageable, more affordable. And I don't know how to make the developers build more low income housing. I don't know if there needs to be a state law that says, okay, if your company builds 1,000 homes a year, 250 of them have to be low income or
Hmm.
moderate income. I don't know how we go about doing that, because people have a right to make money. Um, but there's a lot of people out there. I mean, I know people that are basically on the verge of living in their cars
Wow.
because their rents have gotten so high and they can't predict the next time their landlord's going to raise them. And the power prices have been really high the last few months for people on Delmarva Power, things like that. Um, So we got to take care of people. So I'm torn. I'm on one hand, I like the birds and the nature and the forest. But at the same time, we've got to build houses for people,
Mhm.
because people are what it's all about.
Growing up in Sussex County back in the day, as I would say, was it more affordable housing you think than we have today, or how? What was that like?
I was a kid, so I wasn't shopping for houses, but uh, it seemed like it. It seemed like, when I would see my high school friends or elementary school friends or kids that I knew from the bus or whatever, even people whose families I didn't think made a ton of money, um, had a house that they probably owned. Now there are
Hmm.
people in mobile homes, and that's fine. And a lot of my relatives started out in mobile homes and moved on to build larger homes when they had children and families. Um, but it seems doable. But now I know people who've been renting for 20 years, and
Oh,
they're always like, well, I need to save up for a down payment. I mean, I'm sure you hear this more than I do, but
yeah.
I got to save up for a down payment, but I also have to keep making my monthly rent and
Hmm.
paying my electric and buying my groceries and everything else. And it
Yeah.
seems to be, it seems to me, without having any like scientific data in front of me, it seems that it's gotten more difficult to afford homes in Southern Delaware and probably in Northern Delaware as well. But
Yeah, yeah, and you buy the water. It's a state of the art now, as they call it. Right there by the beach. And it's where folks want to be in the summertime, which is a beautiful scenery. It's a beautiful time, to go out there to the outlets, good food, nice restaurants and stuff in that area. But yeah, I think it's just priced so much that a lot of the workers, I mean, they might have to stay with two or three people in one
right.
apartment, you know, to kind of make it. I know they were doing tiny homes down there to try to help out, but we haven't. I don't think I have seen a lot, not unless you have seen
The,
that population.
there were some near Georgetown, but I mean, I mean, when I was teaching, I would sometimes work uh, on the weekends at the outlets to pay my bills. And I knew people there who worked full time, 40 hours a week, who during the summer would live on the balcony of a friend who had a house closer to the beach. Like that was their home, was somebody else's balcony. And these are people who worked 40 hours a week. And I just don't think that's fair
Yeah,
or right.
right, for it and stuff, and but that is something that need to be done. And you said something big. The electric have went out of hand
Mm-hmm.
with this year. We see a lot of stuff. People say my electric then tripled, and what's going on, and do these people know what's happening out here? Um, and I think Matt Myers was talking about that transition with the electric and everything. And I don't want to misquote him about it have increased over the time, but that's another thing with owning their place, another
Right.
bill
Right.
that really kind of exceeds and throw them off to even be affordable for that. And it's just so hard to find a way to see how we're going to fix it, but it has to be fixed. We're going to have more people out there homeless, and then it's going to raise because when people are homeless, they're fighting for a way to live, you
Right.
know,
Right.
somewhere to go. And those are topics that when we have our meetings, and Greg, you can let us know on that Kent County Democratic Committee. Are the meetings just on first and third, or
The meetings for the Kent County Democratic Committee are uh, the second Monday of every month at 6:30 p.m. at the Kent Levy Court building.
Mhm.
And I would also encourage people to get involved in. We all say RD, and we assume that everybody knows what we're talking about.
Right.
But uh, your RD is your representative district, and which that's the district where you vote for your representative for the state legislature in the House. So in your district, I believe you live in the 29th.
29th. I'm 29th.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you live in the 29th and your representative is Bill Bush, you have a committee that meets and talks about ways of getting Democrats elected. I live in the 30th. There's eight of these districts in Kent County, and when people get involved in these committees, they can learn how to like promote legislation that's going to help people get people elected that are going to pass that legislation. Like you've got Bill Bush, who's just a really great guy. And I think you've got Bill. Yeah, he's between.
That's it.
I have trouble keeping track. But, and it also gives you a chance to meet folks like this that are in leadership and have conversations with them. And I'm not saying that once you've had a conversation with them, they'll do exactly what you want. But these are people who are very open to their constituents and who want to represent well. So going to these meetings gives you a chance to get involved. And the Kent County meeting, like I said, first Monday or second Monday of every month at the Kent Levy Court building. Any registered Democrat is welcome. We talk about ways to build the party, getting more people involved. We do things like tabling, like at events like Milford has its Bug and Bud Festival. And we'll set up a table there, and there'll be 4 or 5 of us sitting there with some literature, and we'll talk to people about, things that Democrats want to do in Kent County and the state of Delaware, and we'll invite them to get involved, because really the more people you get involved, the better things you can do. It shouldn't just be, this person got elected to this position, therefore it all falls on their shoulders. Like, there's a lot of us out here. I mean, there's over 1 million people in the state of Delaware. The more the people get involved, the better things can happen. And the Kent County Democratic Party is just one way to do that.
Yeah, and I think I went to that meeting, and I think we have one on the first and third Monday at Main Street in Smyrna for our district.
Okay.
Yeah, Ford and stuff, and they're very good meetings to figure out what's going on, what do we need, what are we seeing, how can we improve this, are we having some type of resolution to some of the issues that our constituents is having within our area, so we can live in peace and we can have a good open conversation,
right?
So everybody can just pass that on. Bill Bush, well respected, and he listens. He wants to know, so he can pass that vision on as he goes on. And we can appreciate that. Somebody that wants to listen, somebody that wants to understand how it is, because everybody don't think the same. Right. Everybody gotta understand where everybody come from with their vision of what we're doing out here and how to make it to the next level of what we see, because we see so much stuff happening and we don't know why it's happening for it. But it's good events that everybody come to, and I think it's for a worthy cause where we come out. Right. Even I was just noticing about Juneteenth, and so much stuff happened during the summer. And probably you can elaborate on some of them events that happened during the summer that, people might go and probably see the tape and say, oh, this is what this means now.
Yeah, I mean, just some of the ones off the top of my head are like the African American Festival, Juneteenth. I think the Pride Festival got canceled, but that's usually a very big one. Then there's events in towns like Milford has the Bug and Bud Festival and the Freedom Festival later in the summer. Even in my little tiny neck of the woods, we have the Peach Festival in Wyoming. I think every August. And so the Democrats try to get out and meet people at these events and pass out information. While I'm running my mouth, I will promote one thing.
Right.
I happen to be on the Delaware Democratic Party's platform committee, and we are rewriting the platform for the next 4 years as we speak. And we're asking opinions and ideas from every Democrat who will give them to us in the state of Delaware for what we want the party to do. So, and people who are interested can go to deldems.org/platform 2025. And so, just to give you an example, in the last go around, Democrats said they want to create a permit to purchase firearms. And that means that before you buy a pistol, you get some training, a background check to make sure that you don't have a criminal history, so on and so forth. And then the state will give you a permit to buy a firearm. Well, that's something people had pushed for a while, and it hadn't happened. But it showed up in our last platform, and it went through the legislature. So this is the platform committee is an process is an opportunity for Democrats to say what they want to see. It might be better air pollution controls. It might be more affordable housing. It might be standing up for the rights of marginalized communities. Whatever it is, people have a chance right now to put their suggestions out there and get them included in this document, which will come out in June. And lawmakers actually do pay some attention to it. And just to tie it back to what we were talking about, the Kent County Democratic Party and the RD committees, these are other ways to like make your voice heard and maybe influence some things.
Mm-hmm. And we see that we're going to have it going across the street, deldems.org/platform 2025. That's going to be so important, bring your concerns out, bring those issues that you probably want to see, or notice something happen. As you know, we don't know everything, the regional folks, they don't know everything, but they want to hear, but we can't sit back and just watch stuff happen and not say anything.
Right.
We need to be able to put that before and say, hey, we told you, we told you this is happening, and how can we go ahead and make a difference with it when it started to happen? And we pass that on to them, like they were just on Leg Hall about I think, was that bill number 1? Greg, just like a week ago, maybe, or maybe a couple of days.
Are you talking about the thing with corporations?
Yes.
Senate Bill 21 was passed by the state Senate last Thursday, and I'm not smart enough to have a solid opinion about it, but the idea is that the bill would give more power to the majority stakeholders and companies. This became a kind of a controversial topic because there's 1.6 million corporations in Delaware. There's more corporations in Delaware than there are people. We are the number 1 incorporation state in the United States. So companies like Tesla are incorporated here. Well, when they have large majority stakeholders like Elon Musk, they can say, hey, company that I own, give me more money. So Tesla, a few years back, which is under Elon Musk's control, tried to give him a $50 billion bonus for his role as CEO. And that went to Delaware's Chancery Court, which is very well respected nationwide. That's one of the reasons people incorporate here, is because our Chancery Court is so good. And the Chancery Court said, no, you can't just give yourself a $50 billion bonus. That's not good for your company. That's not good for your minority stakeholders. It's not making them money. So that got shot down. And then Elon Musk and some other large CEOs of large corporations said that they're going to leave Delaware. Well, since like I said, there's 1.6 million corporations in Delaware. They generate more than a third of our state revenue for the state budget. So we don't want to lose them because our state budget would be in big trouble. So Senate Bill 21 would protect people like Elon Musk maybe a little bit more, which I don't like. But at the same time, it might discourage people from taking their corporations out of Delaware, which could hurt us to the point where we would need something like a sales tax. So it's very complicated, and these are things that like I encourage more people to pay attention to because I pay a little bit of attention, and I'm not smart enough to figure it out. But I mean, we're talking about a bill that could affect a third of our state budget, and I would say the average person on the street isn't quite sure what it is.
Yeah, and those things are important when we look at our revenue for the state. So as we go around and you have some concerns or topics like that, you got to bring them to the platform so we can discuss them, so we can understand them, and that's what this does. The Kent County Democratic Party's meeting, Newcastle has a party meeting as well. Sussex has a party meeting as well. I mean, join those party meetings so you can see what happens, so it can be broken down what's really happening, so we can not be on the outside trying to figure out what's going on the inside, for it. So we can, when those bills come out, we're not just looking at numbers, bill number 21, bill 261.
Right.
We have to know what's really happening,
right,
because it affects us.
And and that ties a little bit into my background as a journalist. When I was in my 20s, I would go to school board and city council meetings, and there'd be a radio station there recording audio. The News Journal would be there. The Delaware State News, which is where I worked, would be there. And every meeting, there were two or three, at least two, but usually three reporters there. So this information was getting out there. Well, now places like I used to work, like at the Milford Chronicle and some of these other places, they barely exist. They come out maybe once a month. They're mostly advertisements. The News Journal, which also goes by Delaware Online, it has a paywall for most of its stories. And they don't even go to most of these meetings. So like finding out what's going on takes more work than it used to be. It used to be like you'd walk down the street, there'd be a paper box, you'd grab it. It would tell you like, this sports team won the championship and this teacher won Teacher of the Year and this volunteer organization is having a chicken dinner, and all that's very important. But it would also tell you what was going on in your government and how you could weigh in, whether you supported what they were doing or whether you opposed what they were doing. That information was in the paper every week at least, and more often if you lived in a bigger city. Like, I hate to say Dover's a big city, but Dover's a bigger city down here. And now that's just not there. So people need to like really work to pay attention, and it's hard.
Yeah, and it's real hard to figure out what's going on. I mean, I thought it was so important that I started attending and be aware of what's happening instead of trying to read the news.
Right.
Or grab the newspaper that don't exist no more. It's probably cost $2 now.
Yeah.
Just to figure out, just that little section. But it's an interesting opportunity. It's a good time to get out. You get to meet your your district reps, and just talk about some of their views, some of their points, some of the things that we have that's really affecting us, and we won't stuck holding the ball at the end, of trying
Right.
to figure out what we're going to do now. We see the federal government laying off jobs. That's going to affect our economy.
Yes.
That's going to affect housing. People still have to live for it. I'm always preaching about housing and making sure that we're able to have affordable people in there, people being able to purchase. We had a tax increase, and we hadn't had one in a long time, and folks are like, oh man, why they went up on our taxes? Yeah, we was facing some deficits there, but those was opportunities that if you come out to those meetings, you can understand why that's so effective, that we had to have that change,
Right.
because those changes, even though they seem like a whole lot, it can put a big damper on how we live here in the state of Delaware. We enjoy that tax-free money, and as Greg said, offering a state tax is not going to be very, everybody's not going to like that, because we've been living in this way for a long time. So, I encourage y'all just to remember those dates. Second Monday at Levy Court at 6:30. Democratic Party. We're not in there to hold a ruckus. We in there to listen to opinions, ask questions, figure out why we're thinking like this. And guess what? Come to a resolution.
Right.
We're not there to get angry and walk out. We
Right.
have to continue to think through this thing so we can be productive out here. We can say, oh, this is what's happening. And guess what? Everybody can say, hey, have we tried this? Have we tried this? So all those things come up and say, hey, we're trying everything to make it work, so we won't be in this crunch of
Hmm.
trying to figure stuff out. And as you heard Greg said, he was a school teacher and had to work the malls, to pay bills. I mean, that's not normal living, but we understand that has to happen sometime when life changes, and we don't have that income, but we don't want to make it a way of life.
Right. Right.
Yeah, we can do it occasionally for it, and talk about that thing. Talk about the jobs out here. Folks is looking for employment. This might be an opportunity where we can figure out who's really doing the hire, instead of just putting up signs in the window saying they hire, and then we turn
Right.
around and reply and don't have no way out. I heard somebody say today, they said, man, I just got to move overseas because I don't know what else to do. you know
Right.
yeah, but what's to do is to come out, voice the opinion of what's happening, so we can educate, equip you, and be able to give you some type of guidance on what we're going to try to do in these bills. As Greg was talking about, Lake Hall, talking to your representative. And Greg, I mean, how can somebody get a list of their district rep?
I um I should, well, I can't type and talk at the same time, but if you search online, if you Google "Find My Legislator Delaware,"
Mhm.
there is a web address. There's a website that you can go in. It will ask your address, and it will tell you who your state senator is and who your state representative is. Now, if I recall correctly, it's been a while since I've tried to do this, but once you find your state senator, you can send them an email pretty directly. If I recall correctly, finding your state representative, it gives you like an office number. So you call the office, and they'll get your message to somebody. But also, there's people, and I'll keep talking about Bill Bush, since
Right.
he's your representative. But they have constituent coffees. I think he holds his in Smyrna sometimes.
Mhm.
You can come out and sit there and hear what they have to say. And I recommend that everybody search for "Find My Legislator," Delaware online, and then once you find out who your legislator are, whether they're Democrats or Republicans,
Mm-hmm.
if you're on Facebook or some other social media, find them and see what they have to say.
Mm-hmm.
You might not like it, you might like it, but that's a good way to start getting informed about what's going on, because they really do put up things that they support or things that they oppose. And I mean, different legislators put up more stuff on social media than others, but uh, they really try to communicate with people, and they also work with the House and the legislature, or the staff in the legislature, to have graphics and things like that. So I think that's a great way to start, is just finding out what district you're in and finding out who your legislator is, because most people don't know.
Right.
Um, if you walked up to somebody in the mall and said, "Hey, what Senate district do you live in?" They wouldn't know.
Right.
And
Right. I didn't know.
yeah, that's normal. But if you want to change some things and make the world a better place, I think finding those things out and getting involved is the way to start.
Yeah, and it's so important, because you got to touch people's ears to let them know how you really feeling. So that they can, you got to give them a chance to provide that service. They represent the people. They need to hear. They need to listen for it, and you come and voice that, and have a resolution to it. As I tell people,
Mm-hmm.
don't just tell me the building's burning and it's no water over there. Find a resolution to, if this thing is working and it's burning up, it's not effective in that area. Let them know that it's a way to go out there and do it.
Right, right,
Forward, because that's what we're looking for, resolution. We
right.
have a lot of stuff going on right now. Our country is in a scare, which I encourage people, just be timely, be patient. We're going to believe that we're gonna, in this optimistic world, that stuff is going to change,
Right,
and, and it's not going to stay the same as we've seen it to happen. But, we have some turbulence right now that we want folks, just don't go hiding. We want you
right,
to still come out, we still want to be able to stand on 10 toes down, as they said, and talk about some things. And Chuck, I said, yeah, hopefully, yeah, stand on some things that we gonna stand for, some principles that need to be adjusted, and some conversations that need to be had through everything that we have here. I'm just excited that I had the chance to go up there. I met Greg. I met the rest of the staff that's running on the King County Democratic Party. I'm excited to hear what we're going to go out here and what we're looking and work together to get resolved here, and just have some opening conversations. Even if it's your representative is Republican, have some open conversations
right.
with to, that it don't have to be a fight. It don't have to be adversarial. It just
No,
got to be make sense, so you can say, "Hey, this is your point. This is our point. How can we meet to get this resolved? What can we do? Because we need some of this. You want this to happen to get some resolution to some of the issues out here. The people's being laid off of work right
mm-hmm.
now. We see the job cuts. We see the housing, with the people being laid off. We know the housing is in jeopardy right now for it and stuff. And then our economy, finding out if our unemployment rate's going to raise, and we done laid off so many people from the state unemployment sector. It's so much that we just like, we don't know what to tackle first, but we have to sit down and have that conversation. I want to encourage everybody, second Monday of every month, out there at Levy Court, 6:30 p.m. Show up, be of open heart, so we can receive the things that's coming down the pike. You can know what's happening, start to understand your state reps and everything. But Greg, I mean, I'm just so thankful that you took the time out, and you give me the opportunity to sit down with you to go over some things that is so important, and just teach us some of the things that's happening out here, some of the things you have seen since, born and bred Delawarean, and, how we're trying to resolve stuff.
Well, I really thank you for your time, JB. And like I told you the night that we ran against each other, like, wow, you're like the friendliest guy here. I really appreciate that. If I had to leave everybody with a thought, there's a researcher named Margaret Mead, and I'm gonna get a few words wrong, but basically she once said, never forget that a small group of dedicated people can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. So, like, people who are out there in fear and doubt and concern, I hear you. I feel the same things. But, like, if we come together and work together, we can make a difference. It might not happen tomorrow, but it will happen.
It will happen. It's going to happen. Folks, thank y'all again for attending this Creative Financing with JB, with wonderful Mr. Greg Lathan. We thank you for attending. We thank you for listening. Pass the word on that second Monday, Levy Court, 6:30 p.m. will be available to listen to some of the concerns that's happening. Meet your state representative. Oh, come find out who they are.
Yeah.
And then we can get to move forward. But until then, see you next week as we still continue to make a change.